Violet using only Ice-type Pokemon. In a Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it's dead forever, and I can only catch one Pokemon per area. The rest of the rules for this playthrough are shown here and in the description down below. We'll be following these rules until the final fight against AI Turo, so let's get right into it. The very first thing I do is head to South Province Area 4 and catch a Flabébé. Now I know what you're thinking. 1. What the heck was that accent? And 2. A Flabébé is not an Ice-type Pokemon. What are you doing, you big dumb idiot? Well, by heading to Cortondo, I can talk to a kid named Glenn and trade him my newly caught Flabébé for his cute squishy Snom, our very first teammate. I absolutely adore Snom. This is peak Pokemon design. Glenn came up with the brilliant idea of nicknaming his Snom Snowsalot, and unfortunately I can't change that, so welcome to the team, Snowsalot. The nice thing about Snom is that they level up via friendship, so I make sure to spend some real quality time with my new bestie. I take her for a walk, I give her a bath, I let her murder a family of unsuspecting Smoliv, all the things any responsible pet owner would do. As I bond with sweet Snowsalot, we make our way to South Province Area 5, where I can find a guaranteed level 10 Eevee. Catching this adorable little fella almost results in Snowsalot being splattered across the battlefield, but I managed to catch Eevee with a single Great Ball, saving Snowsalot's life. They don't call me One Ball HG for nothing. Bobby Drake the Eevee is certainly not an Ice type, so we're gonna need to fix that by evolving him into a Glaceon. In order to do that, we need to get an Ice Stone, which are found in Delazipa Passage and Glaciado Mountain. Since Paldea is almost entirely open world, I can head there immediately. I mean, it takes forever without any upgrades to my Miraidon, but it's all worth it to get a few delicious Ice Stones. Our Tolkienian journey also seemed to be the extra push needed for Snowsalot to evolve into Frostmoth, so now we've got 2 fully evolved Pokemon before the first gym badge. Needless to say, Katie is absolutely devastated by Bobby Drake spamming Icy Wind. We actually do end up cutting things pretty close against her Teddiursa thanks to a miss though. More like Dicey Wind, am I right? 95% accurate moves are truly one of God's cruelest jokes. As we head into the second gym battle against Brassius, I decide to nip that issue right in the bud by investing in a wide lens from the Delibird shop in Levincia. The only one of Brassius' Pokemon that survives a super effective hit from Bobby Drake is his Grass-type Sudowoodo. Rock types are certainly a little scary for this team, but since Bobby has a normal Terra type, we can avoid taking super effective damage. I don't think a single Rock Throw would have one-shot anyways, but I might as well be safe, right? That wins us a quick and easy second gym badge. But the battle for the third gym badge against Iono will definitely be a step up in difficulty. Fortunately, with the new level cap, I can head to the sandy beaches of East Province Area 2 and catch a Crabrawler who I named Captain Cold. By donking him on the head with another Ice Stone, he immediately evolves into Crabominable, an aptly named Pokemon because this thing is an abomination. Snow on the beach might be weird and beautiful, but ice on the beach is just weird and ugly, I'll tell you that much. Anyways, before fighting Iono, there's a fight against Nemona. And between her lead Rockruff, her speedy Pawmi, and her Fire Terra type Crocolore, she's actually pretty tough for Ice types to deal with. In order to reliably beat her, I'll need to pick up some TMs from around the map. And while exploring, I actually find a shiny Psyduck. I mean, I obviously can't use her since she's not an Ice type, but of course I catch her anyways. I also head to the East Paldean Sea and catch a Shelder. The level range for these guys is a bit all over the place, and I was really hoping to find one under the level cap, but since she's at level 26, I won't be able to use her until after defeating Iono. I try to name my new Shelder Killer Frost, but apparently Game Freak thought that was too extreme. Caitlyn Snow it is. This means it's time for the battle against Nemona. She leads with her Rockruff, and I lead with Bobby. I Terrastalize turn 1 to shake my Rock-type weakness, and then I go for a Calm Mind. A lot of the more powerful TMs like Ice Beam are actually blocked off at this point in the game, so it's a small miracle that this one is accessible right from the start. A Water Pulse, yet another TM, kills Rockruff on the next turn, bringing in Pawmi next. We manage to outspeed and take him out with a single Mud Shot, yet another TM that we picked up on our travels. That means that Crocolore is out last. A single Water Pulse puts him into Blaze range, which means that even without our Fire-type weakness, a Terra-boosted Incinerate is still gonna do a ton of damage. But Nemona ends up just going for Yawn, so with one last Water Pulse, we win a battle that was much easier than I was expecting. With a newfound false sense of confidence, I go to face Iono and her electric types for the third gym badge. She leads with Wattrel, and I lead with Bobby TM Machine Drake. Wattrel manages to outspeed and nails Bobby with a critical hit Spark for a significant chunk of damage before going down to a single Icy Wind. That's not the best start. Bellybolt comes in next, so I nail him with a Mud Shot, which activates his Electromorphosis ability, resulting in a massive Spark in retaliation. So I decide to switch to Snows-a-Lot on another Spark. A Feather Dance on the following turn means that Iono's Avocado is doing much less damage. So, a few turns later, Captain Cold is able to come in and finish him off. It does result in a paralysis from one of Bellybolt's sparks, but this idiot is so slow that it doesn't really matter as long as I manage to avoid being fully paralyzed. Luxio is third for Iono, and her Intimidate is blocked by her Hyper Cutter, which is nice. But unfortunately, even with Terastallization, a Brick Break isn't enough for a one-shot, so Luxio is able to get off two pretty strong sparks. That means that by the time the Lion Cub goes down, Captain Cold is in the yellow. This means that Iono's Mismagius is free to come in and finish him off with a Hex. And then, my remaining two Pokemon follow suit soon after. So that's a wipe. Rather unexpectedly, I might add. I really underestimated this fight. And that was without getting screwed by bad RNG, too. I'm really gonna need to go back to the drawing board and come up with a better plan. Fortunately, I have plenty of time to do that, because resetting this game means sitting through roughly 2 hours of mostly cutscenes before I can do a damn thing. It's really painful, but it does make one thing crystal clear. Wiping in a Scarlet and Violet Nuzlocke has way more at stake. For this reason, I decide to really invest some time exploring every single nook and cranny of Paldea until I've mined the entire land for all that it's worth. It's incredible how much you can actually explore in this game right off the bat, especially with some sick backwards long jumps. Now, I'm sure at least one of you is really stressed out about this wipe, because you know that it means that I had to reset my game data, therefore erasing my shiny Psyduck from existence. It's a very sad consequence of being underprepared for my fight against Iono. But somehow I found a second shiny Psyduck. I genuinely don't know how that's possible, but I can't make this up. Let's just consider it a good omen for the future success of this run, a sign from the cosmic powers of the universe that we've been given a second chance to beat this challenge. Attempt 2 is the run, baby. But it turns out that the cosmic powers of the universe are a little fickle, because in the fight against Nemona, Caitlyn Snow the Crabominable gets outsped and killed by a nasty Incinerate. I didn't have Calm Mind on Elsa the Glaceon, so Water Pulse missed out on the 2-shot, meaning that she fell asleep from Crocolore's Yawn, and then Caitlyn had to pay the price. It sucks to lose the only eligible encounter that isn't weak to Rock-type moves, but this isn't exactly the end of the world. Before Caitlyn's dead body is even cold, we've replaced her with a Shelder, who this time is under the level cap, though he'll obviously be pretty useless into Iono. Still, by making the trek to Cascarafa and picking up a Water Stone, we can evolve the new Captain Cold into a Cloyster. With a Water Terra type, this guy would have been incredible into Nemona, so not catching him until after the ugly crab lady died was pretty stupid on my part. Oh well, let's hope the rematch against Iono goes better. She once again leads with Wattrel, and I lead with Elsa. She's a bit faster than her predecessor, so we outspeed and get a clean kill against the little bird with a single Icy Wind. That brings in Frogomole second. This time, instead of attacking him, I go for a Charm to harshly lower his attack, meaning that Spark is doing baby damage. Then I switch to Snows-a-Lot. In attempt 2, I decided to teach Calm Mind to Snows-a-Lot instead of Elsa, which she's now safely able to set up with. Snows-a-Lot has the ability Shield Dust, meaning that she'll never get paralyzed by Bellybolt sparks. So, with the help of the leftovers, as long as Bellybolt doesn't get multiple poorly timed critical hits, this is completely safe. I've also taught Snows-a-Lot Giga Drain, so after she's done setting up, a single hit kills the friend-shaped frog and gets us all the way back to full HP. Iono's Luxio gets outsped by our killer Moth and also falls to a single Giga Drain, meaning that we're in a much better position as Mismagius comes out last. Things could still get pretty annoying if she goes for Confuse Ray and we get really unlucky, but after Terastallizing, Mismagius just uses a super weak Hex and then falls to a single Bug Buzz, winning us the battle against the supercharged streamer. You know, something that Iono and I both know is that in order to make it in this cutthroat world of online content creation, you gotta work hard to present a polished and professional online presence. It's all about branding. I bet Iono has her own website to help market herself to her legions of followers. And if you'd like a website for yourself, you should check out the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace is an online platform that helps you build and manage your own website. While preparing for the 4th gym, I managed to find a Sneasel Terra Ray battle in the Asado Desert. By connecting online and letting some dude named Len end the raid with a single fire blast from their shiny Charizard, Night King the Flying Terra-type Sneasel joins the team as our 4th member. Though given that he's over the level cap, he'll have to sit on the bench for a little while. I also head to East Province Area 2 and catch a Rotom, yet another encounter that doesn't start out as an Ice type. But after outbidding a bunch of wieners for the Rotom catalog, I can transform Korra into a washing machine. Well, that was a mistake. I transformed them into a refrigerator. Much better. You'd think that my new part electric type teammate would be incredibly useful against Kofu's water types, but their refrigeratorial services won't actually be needed, as Snozelot is able to clear through his entire team with Giga Drains. A terastallization to drop our bug typing means that it's safe to set up a single Calm Mind against Kofu's Vuvuzela, who now hits us with a neutral Pluck. And then that's all she wrote. Fish goes down on the following turn. Thanks to Shield Dust, Wugtrio can't flinch us with Headbutt, confuse us with Water Pulse, or even lower our accuracy with Mud Slap, so this plan was foolproof. Even Kofu's Water-type Abominable is no match for our monstrous killing machine. She really puts the moth in Behemoth, huh? With the new level cap of 36, I feel comfortable making the trek to the northern parts of Paldea and getting a bunch of new encounters. First is a Citadel named Mr. Freeze. Since we were still out of the cave at this point, I thought this would count as a West Area 3 encounter instead of a Delazipa Passage encounter, but sadly it doesn't. So no more encounters from the Ice Cave. In the North Paldean Sea, I catch an Ice Cue. She's over the level cap, but it doesn't really matter because this Pokemon is a steaming pile of crap. Frosta will be enjoying a very domestic life in the box, at least for now. Night King the Sneasel is now below the level cap, so he joins the team and promptly evolves into a Weavile, giving my team some much needed speed. I really love Weavile's design, and he's such a fun Pokemon to use. My final encounter is an adorable little Frigibax that I find wandering around Glaciado Mountain. For a Monotype challenge with limited encounters like this, I'll often just let myself get all the eligible encounters available, but in this challenge I decided to keep it with 1 encounter per area. Anyways, Frozone the Frigibax has a Wild Terra type of Dark, which is pretty cool, though he too is above the level cap for now. So he's on the bench as we go to face off against Larry for the 5th gym badge. Larry leads with his Komala and I lead with Korra. Despite being asleep, the little marsupial manages to dodge a wide lens boosted Blizzard on turn 1, letting her get off a free and surprisingly nasty slam. A second Blizzard does connect though for about 75% as Komala goes for a yawn. But before we can be nap buddies, we take her out with a Shockwave. As Korra takes a snooze, Larry brings in his dopey Dunsparce. But by terastallizing Korra into a Ghost type, this Dunsparce can't damage Korra at all. I was curious to see if Larry would switch, but he doesn't, so we just take a nice little nap and then eventually finish him off with a Volt Switch, which grants us a safe switch into Captain Cold as Staraptor comes in last. Our held White Herb restores the attack drop from Intimidate, and then we just start trading off attacks. Captain Cold has a really remarkable physical defense, and he can't be crit thanks to his ability Shell Armor, so even with the Terra boost, Facades don't do enough damage, and a few turns later, Staraptor falls to a priority Ice Shard, winning us the 5th gym badge. Immediately after the fight against Larry, Nemona challenges me to a battle. I didn't remember this from my first playthrough, but you don't even get a chance to change your team. So Korra is once again my lead Pokemon. Fortunately, we have an auto win against Nemona. After tanking an Accelerock, I use Volt Switch to bring in Captain Cold. Then I Terastallize to drop my Rock weakness and set up a Shell Smash, one of the most broken setup moves in the game. Shell Smash increases your attack, special attack, and speed by 2 stages at the expense of a single stage decrease to your defenses. These decreases can be removed with a held White Herb, which in Scarlet and Violet is now restored at the end of each battle. This makes Cloyster one of the strongest Pokemon in the game, since he can set up against virtually any physical attacker. You still have to be a little careful because Cloyster doesn't have the best attack or special attack stats, but Terastallization does help out quite a bit. Plus, in this instance, 3 of Nemona's 4 Pokemon are weak to our stab moves, and the other is a frail Palmo, so this is super clean. Which is good, because Terrafire Skeledirge spamming Torch Song is horrifying into my Ice types. Anyways, with the new level cap, I've decided to replace Elsa with Frozone, who is now able to evolve into an Arctobax. It'll still be a little while before he can fully evolve, but I do think he'll be more useful than Elsa, who's getting a little outmatched by her teammates at this point in the game. That gets us to the double battle against Rhyme for the 6th gym badge. She leads with Mimikyu and Bayonet, as I lead with Captain Cold and Korra. The battle kicks off with a Sucker Punch from Bayonet into Korra for a good chunk of damage. Then we retaliate with a Dark Pulse that falls just shy of the KO. A Slash from Mimikyu does another sliver of damage to Korra, as Captain Cold sets up a Snowscape to boost the defense of my Ice types. This also allows Korra to fire off perfectly accurate Blizzards. The first one kills Bayonet and breaks Mimikyu's disguise. A Limp Slash goes into Korra, and then a Liquidation boosted by the stat increases given to us by riling up the crowd or whatever, gets the kill on Mimikyu. So that leaves Rhyme with her last 2 Pokemon, Houndstone and Toxtricity, the latter of which terastallizes right away. Thanks to an additional Omni boost from the crowd though, a Dark Pulse one-shots Toxtricity, and then 4 hits from a loaded dice-rigged Icicle Spear take out Houndstone, netting us another decisive victory. I really wish this battle didn't have those free stat boosts from the crowd, because I think it'd be a pretty tough challenge without them. But oh well. These last few gym battles really fly by quickly. Next up is Tulip and Alfornata. She leads with Farigiraf and I lead with Snows-a-Lot. A single Bug Buzz is enough for her to fuel her bloodlust. Gardevoir is second, and for some dumb reason, Fairy resists Bug, so we just trade off neutral hits, though mine does still hit much harder. After that, third is a Spothra. She outspeeds and hits a Psychic before I retaliate with a Giga Drain. A Bug Buzz would have cleanly killed her, but I want the bird alive so that I can get a safe switch into Night King. He assassinates the chicken with an Assurance, which is sadly the strongest Dark-type move that Weavile has access to until Night Slash at level 60. RIP Throat Chop on Weavile. Anyways, this sets us up well for Tulip's last Pokemon, Florges. I Terastallize into a flying type so that we won't take super effective damage from a Moonblast, but that ends up being unnecessary as an Assurance gets a clean one-shot into Tulip's ace, winning us another easy gym badge. Last up for the gym leaders is Grusha and his Ice types. How poetic that the final gym battle is a mirror match. Except it's not really because my team is just objectively better than his. With a wide lens, Captain Cold is able to kill his lead Frostmoth with a Rock Blast. There's a 1% chance that could have gone really poorly. Grusha's next 2 Pokemon, Beartic and Satitan, are both physical and therefore really can't hit Captain Cold for much damage. So even though Rock Blast isn't a one-shot on either of them, it's perfectly fine to stay in and finish them both off. That just leaves Grusha with his Ice Terra type Altaria, so it's time for a switch. Mr. Freeze, who evolved into a Satitan, is able to tank a Hurricane well enough, so we stay in and tank another one on the next turn, but unfortunately that second one confuses him, and then the big lug hits himself in confusion. So it's off to Night King, who's wearing an Assault Vest, but Altaria manages to connect with a third 70% accurate Hurricane, which causes yet another confusion. So I have to switch out again, this time to Korra on a Moonblast. Korra's electric typing means that Altaria should never go for Hurricane, but I stay in and go for a Shadow Ball once just to be safe. Then we Volt Switch for a good chunk of damage and bring Night King back in on a Dragon Pulse. And finally, after a needlessly safe Terastallization, we finish off the final Pokemon of the final gym leader with a Brick Break. That wins us the 8th gym badge, which means that it's time to take on the Elite Four. In preparation, Frozone finally evolves into Baxcalibur, a true beast of a Pokemon. He's quickly becoming one of my new favorite Pokemon. Dragon Ice typing is really cool, and Thermal Exchange is an awesome ability. With our newly minted Pseudo-Legendary, here's my team, leveled up to the level cap of 61 to match the final Elite Four member's ace. For how terrible the Ice type in general is, I think this squad is pretty impressive. It's a shame I couldn't figure out a way to get an Abomasnow on here to provide instant snow, but we'll manage just fine without it. Maybe. Let's do this. Our first fight against the Elite Four is against Rika. She leads with Whiscash and I lead with my starter, Snows-a-Lot. I don't love her name, but I definitely love her and her murderous tendencies. A Giga Drain gets a clean one-shot and baits out Camerupt next. So I switch to Frozone, who gets nailed by a Fire Blast, giving him an attack boost from Thermal Exchange. This means that an Earthquake gets a clean one-shot on the following turn. Donphan is third and threatens with Stone Edge, which isn't great since she has the ability Sturdy. So I Terastallize and hit her with a Freeze Dry. The Stone Edge ends up doing a big chunk of damage because it crits. So as Donphan goes down, I'm a bit lower on HP than I'd like to be. Dugtrio comes in fourth, and I'm worried that a critical hit Earthquake will kill from this range, so I just switch to Korra as Dugtrio rather frustratingly sets up a Sandstorm. On the next turn, he hits us hard with a critical hit Rock Slide as we whiff a Blizzard, though that's not surprising thanks to its low accuracy and Dugtrio's Sandveil ability. This isn't looking amazing, so we're gonna need to be a little cheeky here. I start with a switch to Mr. Freeze on another Rock Slide. Then I switch to Captain Cold, again on a Rock Slide. This means that I should be able to stay in, tank one last Rock Slide, and then set up a Shell Smash on the last turn of Sandstorm. Fortunately, we managed to avoid the flinch there, because that would have been really bad. Since we now outspeed, Dugtrio goes down to an Icicle Spear before he can get up another Sandstorm. That just leaves Clodsire, so as long as I don't forget about Water Absorb, it should be safe to flush the little turd with just a few hits from Icicle Spear. That wins us the battle against Rika, though it did end up being a little riskier than I was expecting it to be. Next up is Poppy, whose Steel types have the potential to be quite the threat. She leads with Copperaja, and I lead with Frozone, who's able to knock out the giant elephant with a single Earthquake. That's a relief because that thing setting up Stealth Rocks would have been a pretty big issue. Magnezone is second and hangs on from an Earthquake thanks to Sturdy, but they just waste their one chance to do any damage by going for Light Screen. Third is Bronzong. They're strong enough to barely survive a crunch, so an Iron Head hits Frozone for just less than 50%. Corviknight is fifth, and here's where the Frozone sweep has to end. I switch to Korra on an Iron Head. A Shadow Ball on the next turn brings the bird down to about 60% and also gets the special defense drop. This means that after tanking a Body Press, we can use Volt Switch to knock out Corviknight and get a completely safe switch into Captain Cold as we prepare for Poppy's final Pokemon, Tinkaton. Terra-boosted Gigaton Hammers will hit really hard into our Ice types, but by terastallizing Captain Cold into a pure Water type, we now resist that hit, meaning that we easily outdamage Tinkaton with a Terra-boosted Liquidation. 2 hits is all it takes to take out Tinkaton and win us the battle. That means that third is Larry and his Flying types. In other words, it's a poultry buffet for Night King, who just culls through Larry's feathered friends with Ice Spinners. It's an absolute massacre, bloody plumage littering the battlefield left and right. It's enough to make any man shudder. Well, any man except Larry, whose soul has been so absolutely crushed by the 9-to-5 grind that I don't think he feels anything at all anymore. Maybe that's for the best though. Maybe Larry has it figured out. But either way, that's the third member of the Elite Four defeated. So last is Hassel, but his Dragon types are in for a really bad time against my team of Ice types. I decide to play with fire a little and take them out with Frozone. If we miss out on a kill, we'll be faced with a strong Dragon type attack, but Frozone never misses out on the kills. A priority Ice Shard is enough to kill Noivern and Flapple, which are first and second respectively. Dragalge is third, so an Earthquake takes care of him. Haxorus is fourth, but my Pseudo is better and gets a clean one-shot with a Dragon Claw, though I do Terra type into a Dark type, just to be sure. Never doubted him though. So last is a Baxcalibur vs Baxcalibur mirror match. But it's really one of those funhouse mirrors that makes your reflection look all small and silly, because Hassel's Baxcalibur sucks and gets cleanly taken out by a single Dragon Claw, winning us the battle and defeating the Elite Four. That means that it's time to face off against the champion Gita. Her team is actually quite strong into Ice types thanks to her King Gambit and the Body Tech press on her Avalugg, so I'm gonna need to play this one carefully. As Gita leads with the Sia Bird, I lead with Korra. I instantly Terastallize to become Ghost type, which gives me enough power to take out her Espathra with a single Shadow Ball. I'm really surprised that we outsped her, but I'm not complaining. Our Ghost typing now baits in King Gambit, who will be going for Kowtow Cleave. So this grants me a safe switch into Night King, who shrugs off the resisted hit. Then a Low Kick gets the one-shot on the following turn. Avalugg is next with Body Press, so I freely switch back to Korra. 2 Shadow Balls are enough to take out the Slab of Ice, though we do have to tank a strong super effective Crunch. Go-Go comes in fourth, so I go for a Blind Blizzard, which connects for the one-shot. Nice. Vuvuzela is fifth, so it's time for a classic kill and safe switch using Volt Switch. Except surprisingly, Vuvuzela survives with a Sliver. It doesn't really matter though, because Frozone comes in and shrugs off a Liquidation. As we take out the Polygonal Fish on the next turn, Gita is left with her Glimora. In my last Nuzlocke, I lost a loved one to this little guy, and now I'm potentially in that same situation. If an Earthquake doesn't kill, a Rock-type Terra Blast might be enough to kill Frozone, even with his Assault Vest. So, as Glimora terastallizes, I hold my breath, praying that Earthquake is enough for the one-shot. As Frozone's attack hits, it falls just short. But then Glimora just does a squeak of damage with Dazzling Gleam. I wonder if the AI reads Terra Blast as a normal type move on the first turn, since the Pokemon hasn't terastallized yet. I mean, that obviously means that we're able to take out Glamora on the next turn, winning us the battle against La Primera and becoming champion. But it's not over quite yet. There's still 2 more important fights, the first of which is the final showdown against Nemona, and this one's really tough. Since the Elite Four was a bit underwhelming, I thought it'd be fun to do this fight immediately after beating Gita, so we're a little underleveled. With the exception of her Gudra, Nemona's final team is aggressively anti-ice. One way or another, heads are gonna roll, starting first with her lead Lycanroc. I decide to lead with Frozone, who kicks off the game with an early Terrestrialization to tank a nasty Stone Edge and retaliate with an Earthquake for the one-shot. As Lycanroc goes down, Nemona's Pawmot comes out, and low-key this thing is a menace to my entire team. Frozone's Dark Terra type will be baiting close combat, and the only Pokemon that outspeeds this little gopher is Night King. Originally, I was planning on switching to Night King, who's holding a Focus Sash. He'd be able to retaliate with an Ice Spinner that should KO after the defense dropped from the first close combat. But rather last minute, I realized that Pawmot has priority and quick attack, so that plan wouldn't actually work. Instead, we're gonna need a sacrifice, and that burden falls on my beloved Snozelot. Thanks to her bug typing, she is able to tank 1 close combat, but she doesn't outspeed, so Pawmot finishes her off with a double shock. The killer has become the killie. With Snozelot's valiant sacrifice, Night King is able to come in for free and does indeed cleanly one-shot Pawmot with an Ice Spinner. That brings in Nemona's Steel-type Ortho Worm in third, yet another pain in the backside of my Ice types. I decide that my best bet is to take Orthworm out with 2 low kicks. The price I pay is Night King falling down to his Focus Sash from a nasty body press, but at least it's not a little girl with a small dagger. The Dunsparce is next, so I hard switch to Captain Cold. Despite our high defense stat, Hyper Drill does a solid chunk of damage. On the next turn, I nailed the Dunsparce with a Liquidation as he goes for a Coil, which is pretty scary. It means that a second Liquidation doesn't do much, but a second Hyper Drill does. So I risk a switch to Korra, who mercifully survives a non-critical hit Hyper Drill. Then we finish off Megasparce with a Volt Switch, granting me a safe switch to old reliable Frozone. Gudra comes in 5th, so we easily take her out with a Dragon Claw. That just leaves Nemona with her final Pokemon, her level 66 Skeledirge. This guy's responsible for the only death of the run up until this battle. I mean, sure, it was a stupid Crabominable, but I still want revenge, and now it's finally time. As Skeledirge terrestrializes, threatening with massive damage from Torch Song, Frozone fires off an Earthquake, but sadly, it's just not enough. And for the second time this run, Nemona's starter kills one of my teammates. It's a brutal loss, especially because it would have been much better to Volt Switch into Mr. Freeze after getting the kill onto Dunsparce. He's not quite as strong as Frozone, but with thick fat and an Assault Vest, Mr. Freeze definitely would have been able to tank a hit, and Frozone's life would have been spared. That was a massive error on my part, and Frozone's death is completely my fault. At the very least, Mr. Freeze is able to come in and finish off Skeledirge with a Liquidation, so the battle is won, but ending on a misplay and the death of a beloved teammate makes it really hard to celebrate. Especially because Frozone would have been really helpful as we go to take on the very final fight of the run against Robo Daddy. In place of my mighty pseudo-legendary and my sweet Snozelot, I have to bring Frosta the Ice Cue and Elsa the Glaceon. I didn't really feel like leveling them up, so they're just gonna be cannon fodder. Sorry guys, but we're gonna need some sacrifices to win this one. Let's finish this. AI Turo leads with Iron Moth, and I lead with Mr. Freeze, the boy who lived. With a Choice Scarf, we outspeed and kill the Fire Poison Paradox Pokemon with a single Earthquake. Alturo is kind enough to bring in Iron Thorn second, which also has a quad weakness to Earthquake, and therefore goes down just as fast as their predecessor. Next up is Iron Jugulus though, and since they're Dark Flying type, I gotta switch, resulting in the first sack of the fight. This is sad. It'll be hard to go on without sweet... hold on, let me look up this thing's name. Frosto? Yeah. Froggo was truly one of the team members of all time, and it's absolutely heartbreaking to see her go down. But we have to be brave. We have to rally so that Frobo's name will live on forever. This starts by bringing in Night King and killing Iron Jugulus with an Ice Spinner. But then that brings in Iron Hands fourth, so it's time for another sack. And this one is actually kinda sad. Elsa has been with us since the very beginning. It's not her fault that Game Freak gave Glaceon the short end of the stick, but it's time to let her go. With the help of a focus sash, Elsa is able to nail Iron Hands with a charm before heading to her final resting place. RIP, you sweet little snow pup. With the double attack drop, this means that it's safe for Captain Cold to come in and set up a Shell Smash without taking too much damage. Because of Shell Armor, Iron Hands will never crit, so 2 liquidations finish off Iron Hands before they can do enough damage to my smirking bivalve. That means that Iron Bundle comes in next. I switched to Korra on a freeze dry that does basically nothing thanks to our held Assault Vest. Iron Bundle then sets up a Snowscape, which is a nice little gift for my team before the Holiday Chicken goes down to a Volt Switch. This lets me safely bring in Night King, as Turo is left with his final Pokemon, Iron Valiant. A booster energy increases their attack, but that's only scary if, they can get an attack off. And they can't, because a Terastallization turns Night King's Terra Blast into a super effective flying type move, which is enough for a clean one-shot, winning us the battle and the run. With that, I've completed a monotype Nuzlocke of every single type. The channel's come a long way since I did that very first mono grass type challenge of Pokemon Emerald, and it's been really cool to see so many other YouTubers spring up and succeed as a result of these monologues. We're by no means done with these challenges though, and I'm excited to try a few more monotype Nuzlocke runs in Scarlet and Violet. So look out for those and let me know down in the comments which ones you'd like to see. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, it'd be great if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel.